this is a tier list for the highest of keys. We're thinking about high keys in mind, guys. All of these specs here are gonna be doing fine in your weekly 20s. Okay. Here we go. Let's start with... Warlock. Warlock. Destro. Destro Warlock. This is quite shit. But good survivability. Good control. Decent AoE damage. This is M+. I mean, this is not good currently, but taking it down in D, I think is punishing it too hard, or? I would probably put Destro in C. Like, you can still do okay in a dungeon. I wouldn't call it like bottom garbage. I think it's like it's a C. It's not good, but it's not completely useless. Okay. You can do okay with any spec. Exactly. A spec has to be really fucking horrible for it to put it in D. Okay. We got Demo here. Demo Warlock. This is the spec that I think most people have been playing in M+, I've seen. I've seen Destro and I've seen Demo. This is for high keys, by the way. Jeg ved ikke, du svinger det formandsvejen. Demo A? Demo is like A or B, right? It's good. But I would put it in the middle. It's okay. But A, it's like, it's not that sick. You can do some good stuff though. But they've lost like their ability to do this kind of imp tech where you do like a million single target DPS. And then we have Affliction. Where the fuck is Affliction? There, Affliction. Affliction Warlock. Affliction Warlock is also kind of poo-poo. I mean, it's not at the bottom though. I think it's also like in Destro level, I think. Kind of like here. It's like, I would probably put it here. If I... It's like, the thing is, I would put the Affli in the middle. It would be like this. But I would say it's more... Because it's Warlock. Warlock is more B than C class. Because it's a fucking Warlock. It has some good... It's like a low tier B, exactly. But it's more B than C, I think. Okay. The trader, thanks so much for the 9 months, by the way. Okay, so now we got Moonkin. A+. After the mastery buff, or mastery fix, it does a lot of damage. It has Mark of the Wild as well, which buffs the whole group, and natural combat res. I think it fits perfectly into the current meta of like having a Havoc and an Augmentation Evoker in the group. Boomkin is a perfect spec to place into that group composition. Clicks, what do you mean? Wait, are we having a meeting? Did I miss? Wait a second, I'm checking. Oh, holy fuck, you scared me. I thought I was... we didn't have anything. Holy fuck, I thought I was like late for something. Alright. Feral Druid. Take the Twitter link. Okay, let me see. I don't know who needs to hear this, but there's no meta yet. All tier lists are bullshit. Anyone telling you X-Spec is broken is lying. Do better. I mean, it's based. But people want to know. People want to have a general idea of specs that are good. So with that in mind, we put Feral Druid. Feral Druid is also like similar to Druid, Mark of the Wild. Not a magical damage dealer, so it doesn't scale with the 5% magic damage from the Havoc. It has good single target. But its AoE damage is not the greatest compared to some of the other specs. It has decent sustained AoE. I would probably put like... I would prefer like in the middle. Like I would put it like in B. I'd put it like it's a medium spec. Not super strong in keys, but it's a decent. Like it's like middle of the pack. You can do some good single target damage, which can speed up the dungeon a lot, but you're not gonna be topping the overall meter as Feral Druid. I guess with the Warlock, like it depends a little bit. If you have a Disc Priest in the group, then it bumps up one step more. If you have PI. Okay. And that doesn't. Mage. Mage. Omega broken. And I won't sandbag. I think it's something like this, honestly. This is not even... This is like where they're at. You could maybe put this one up here. But I've... Like you can put Frost Mage up here. Like a... That I could do. So, like, Fire Mage, obviously, really good survivability, cheat death, You good mobility as well while doing damage. But it's the worst damage of the 3 specs. Arcane and Frost will do more damage in a plus. Arcane has a little bit of a scuffed damage profile sometimes for dungeon, where you will have really high burst, but then you will have downtime in your DPS. It's also more punishing to do control as Arcane, especially if it's doing your burn windows. Not as bad when you're out of your Radiant Spark window, because then it's mainly instant spells. You have to be in melee a lot to Arcane Explosion as well. But the damage of Arcane is good. It just feels really awkward to play sometimes. That's why it's in A. Fire doesn't have that problem at all. It's just does less damage than the other specs right now. Frost feels pretty good to play in dungeons, honestly. The only negative is that you have to permanently Nova, which can be annoying sometimes. But you have slow, which is good. Some cases it's good. Most cases it's good. And you kind of have damage all the time. And the new set bonus is really good for AoE. You pretty much just do an AoE Nova after each glacial spike, and it will shatter the whole group. So it does a lot of good dips. Also really good 2 targets. Not many bosses where there is that, but I'll do like this. This is probably fair. This is M+ only. Now everyone wants Hunter. Guys, Hunter is actually doing a lot of damage. And all 3 specs are doing good damage. Now the negative is, of course, just their survivability. And their control. Some have better survivability than others though. So let's start off with the one that is currently doing the most overall damage out of them. Okay? And that will be Marksmanship Hunter. Marksmanship Hunter with the new set bonus is actually doing a fuck ton of DPS. But MM is just... It has no pet out, unless you want to lose Lone Wolf, which means that you have reduced HP. You have no way of utilize... Like, you can bring out Leech Pet and do Leech Healing, like Survival Hunter, but again, you don't really want to do that. You can spec into Wailing Arrow if you want. You don't have Pet Stun either, unless you bring out Pet. It's just like, you have no utility and the worst survivability out of all 3 Hunter specs if you are playing MM. But holy shit, you can do a lot of AoE dam. The AoE dam is crazy. It is so high AoE damage, like it's ridiculous. So you will do a fuck ton of AoE damage if you play Marksmanship. Need Pet for Bloodlust as well? Yes, but with Augmentation Evoker meta, it doesn't really matter. Now, I can also give you a little trick. If you're the only Bloodluster in your group, and you really want to min-max this, you summon a Bloodlust pet, then you press Bloodlust, and then you abandon your pet. You can do all of this in a macro. Then you will use Bloodlust, your pet will be abandoned, and then you will use Bloodlust without dropping Lone Wolf. Okay? This is something you can do if you really want to try hard and plus. But it's like it's a minimal gain, but something you can do. But you don't need to do it with Augmentation in the group, right? So, with that in mind, bad utility, bad survivability, really fucking high damage, like one of the highest. Now, how much do we favor damage over utility and defensives? I would probably put it in A because of that. It has the damage to compete with the top specs, but it drops 2 rankings because it's weak in other areas. So I would put it in A. It's really good damage, but a good MM Hunter will be able to survive in many cases, right? Like, yes, it's weak, but if you play good, and if you use the group's external buffs as well, and keep in mind having an Augmentation Evoker in the group will also help you out. With shifting sands and whatnot. So you can survive. It's harder than most specs, but still, a good hunter will find ways. So I wouldn't just like take them out. Like I said, if you're really struggling, it's not like you cannot take an endurance pet out. Get more HP if absolutely necessary. You can also, if there's a pull where there's like a fuck ton of rot damage, you can bring out a leech pet and self-sustain yourself with leech on an AoE pull. Do you lose Lone Wolf? Yes. But you do have certain outplays in the situations where you're weak. And that's where like a good MM Hunter would still be able to play it in like a high key setting. And it has really fucking good damage. Now, it doesn't bring a good group buff. Hunter's Mark is kind of ass. Sure, there's some situations like the Iridicron boss, or Galacron, whatever his name is, in Dawn of the Infinite, where you get good Hunter's Mark value on that boss, for example. But, so yeah, that's why I think it's a raid tier list. I'm not doing raid tier list, guys. I cannot share anything from our raid testing and stuff like that. Okay, now the next hunter spec we have is Survival Hunter. Survival Hunter, the one with the best survivability, I guess you can say. Maybe you favor being in a range, like, makes you stronger, but Survival has the ability to leech a lot with Leech Pet, that one that BM Hunter doesn't have. You have a short melee kick as well. Survival has also... You don't need to be in melee. Let's put it like that. You have a lot of range stability. You have increased range and you have a lot of range stabilities, right? So I wouldn't really put Survival in like the ranged, like in melee. It's not as bad being a melee Survival Hunter. And the damage is good. And if, as it looks like, if Havoc Demon Hunter stays meta, because right now both Vengeance and Havoc is good, you're the only Hunter spec that benefits from the 5% magic damage. That's also something to consider. So I would probably also put Survival Hunter in A. It's also really good. Also the best single target out of the 3 specs. And it just has an overall really good damage profile, I think, for dungeons. You kind of have damage all the time. So it's also an A spec for me. Just missing the class buffs. That, like, the good ones. And I think all 3 hunter specs are probably in the same. All 3 hunter specs are good in dungeons. Like, no memes. You can go in and do good damage on all 3 specs. And do pretty fine. I mean, like I said, it's A. It's a good dungeon spec. All 3 of them. It's not let's say in meta. All A plus and S. That's like meta specs. A classes are things you can bring that will do really good, but maybe will not be brought in like the god comp. Okay. Rogue. We can start with Outlaw. Outlaw, I would also deem as one of the best DPS specs there is. Really good single target control. Insane survivability, of course. Very short cooldown on evasion. And you like crit versatility as a stat. Like, let's just say you're gonna be feeling good as a rogue in dungeons, especially Outlaw, because I think Outlaw is the best of the free specs in M+, of the free rogue specs. Now, as for Sub and Assa, I would probably put those in. I would argue Sub is better than Outlaw. No, it's not. I would probably put Assa in B. And I would probably put Sub in A for dungeons. Sub is just a pad spec. I'm telling you, Sub will do quite a lot of AoE damage in a dungeon, but Outlaw's damage profile is just gonna be way better. Assa is insane AoE. I mean, yes, you can open up on a pole. It's just the damage profile of like Assa. It's very cooldown focused. Obviously, re-stealthing is also gonna be a big thing. And for like assassination. And I can guarantee you, if you're gonna be playing around an Assa rogue having to re-stealth every single pack to get his opener out, you're losing time. The most optimal way of progressing through the dungeon is killing off the high prior mobs that does certain, like, it just, you cannot pull more of these mobs or you're gonna get overrun in terms of control, kicks, stun, stops, whatever. And your tank will naturally progress through the dungeon, staying in combat for a very long time. Assa gets like crazy punished from this, but you're not gonna sit there and finish off the whole pack because the Assa rogues is required to re-stealth for every single pull. This is a huge negative for Assa rogue in dungeons. And it's not something that you're going to be playing around. Otherwise, you will lose too much damage. Gingi, in Rogue Discord, that did a research on that long YouTube video. It's pinned in Rogue Discord. They don't gain along from re-stealthing. I mean, you can play... the thing is, you can play Shadow Melt as well. And that's not necessarily a bad way to do it. Like, I think Assa is going to be like a what's it called? Night Up is going to be pretty nice. But walk me through, why are you not reliant on re-stealthing? Don't you have the, like, you want to play around the spreading your Garrotes, right? You can spread Garrote to 9 targets in 3 globals after re-stealth. Isn't that like a massive amounts of damage? Yes, you can also dance. I know that. But all of these things have cooldowns. I mean, you have Vanish, you have Dance, and you can also play Melt. Like, I don't think Assa is bad. If I should be probably, after thinking more about it, putting Rogue in a B is probably undervaluing Assa's value. I don't think any of the Rogue specs is actually mediocre. It's probably more like upper end. I think you're like, I don't think I should put it in B. You are right. I think I should put it in A. But I still do believe that Outlaw is by far the best of the free rogue specs in dungeons. Mm. Mm. Okay. Shadow Priest. D. Really? You get F? Or there's no F, guys. Do you actually think like it's that bad? Shadow Priest should have a tier for itself. No shot, guys. No way it's that bad. I mean, is it fair to put it in D? Okay. Okay. Okay, let's show some love to the Shadow Priests, guys. They definitely need a buff. But I mean, what about the utility, right? Like, you do bring PI, increased stamina, Mind Soothes, Master Spell, Mind Controls. Yes, the damage might be bad, but like... Can't you argue that all of the utility it brings gives it a C at least? Damage D, utility brings it up a bit. This kills it off. I mean, if you end up playing Disc Priest, then sure you could say that like you don't need the Shadow. But you guys really think like Disc is gonna be the play? I always felt like Disc Priest is just like lagging in dungeons sometimes. Like healer wise. There's so many strong healers right now. This got reworked, yeah, it did. It's just that some classes in awkward situations are really good, whereas this priest was more of a class that needed to be like set up, be prepared for the damage, and in some situations it was awkward to play disc. I don't know if they've been fixing that problem, but obviously damage is really good, utility, stamina, PI, strong target. Control is like non-existent, by the way. You have no kick on disc. You have 1 AoE fear. Mind control is going to be pretty convenient sometimes. But compare that to, like, let's say a Mistweaver or a Holy Paladin. And the amount of stuff that they bring to the table in comparison. Yes, they lack self-defensive too. I mean, they have strong shields, right? But they are cloth. They're weak against physical damage. No immunity either. Like, I guess if you compare like a priest to a holy paladin, it's night and day, like how strong a holy paladin is in a dungeon by themselves. And Mistweaver is also looking really fucking good for 10.2 in dungeons. But yeah, of course, like depending on the meta, one healer will be better than the other, right? Like if you're playing Augmentation, Havoc, Boomkin or Mage or something, then you don't really gain that much from the Mistweaver. But yeah. Anyway, we weren't on the healer talk yet. We've just finished off the Rogue. Let's go ahead and talk about Devestation. Like, let's take the Evokers now. Devestation Evoker. Devestation Evoker is like pretty good, by the way. It does good damage after they buffed it. It's just been replaced by Augmentation for far too long. And the thing is, yeah, I mean, you wouldn't bring the Devestation Evoker because you have the Augmentation, right? That's the negative. But if there was no Augmentation, it would be good. So, like, if there was no Augmentation, you'd probably put it in A. But because you'll be trolling by playing Devestation, it goes down into B. You're playing the wrong spec. But you can bring both, though. So yeah, we put it in B. Augmentation. Let's just go ahead and just place it there. Everyone knows it. It's in S, of course. God class of the game currently. It is just so broken. It brings so much utility to the group. It provides, when it plays with strong classes, right? At the end of the, if you check logs, it provides more damage to the group than any other DPS spec does, which puts it not only in front in terms of DPS in the 5-man team, it also gives the whole group survivability with increased HP. It has really good control. It gives versatility through shifting sands. It's not an understatement when I think that if you're playing in a 5-man group content, if you bring an Augmentation Evoker into a really strong comp, it will give you 2 key levels that you otherwise wouldn't be able to do. That's how much of a difference Augmentation Evoker gives a 5-man group. It is completely broken. It is just God class. Definite S. What should Blizzard do about Aug? Delete it. Delete. They should, yeah, imagine if they just made Augment, like Evoker, wouldn't it have been a lot better if Augmentation Evoker was the first male tank spec in the game? That would have been a way better to add that than Augmentation. Like, it would have been way better. You see, Enhancement was the first male tank back in vanilla. I mean, didn't you guys see in the Season of Discovery that's coming up in Classic here the 30th of November? You can play Warlock tank and Shaman tank. All that good stuff. Rogue tank too, yes. Okay, so that was the Evoker. Now, what else do we have? We have Havoc Demon Hunter. Havoc Demon Hunter is the second spec that will be placed into the S bracket. Damage is just crazy. Brings 5% magic damage to the group. It's has a really good damage profile, pretty much has damage all the time. Good AoE, good single target. Fell Eruption baseline, which is a single target stun. AoE stun. Imprison, which is a true CC as well. What else can you do? You can do a lot of cool skips using Fear Sigil. And utilizing Shadow Melt. Like, overall, really, really good spec that also is stronger defensively now. Strong leech healing. Darkness. Blur. Gets damage reduction during Blade Dance as well. Nowadays. It's just really fucking good. The damage is just insane. Doesn't need a nerf. That's what people say. Demon Hunter has been down bad for a long time. So some people would argue and say that Demon Hunter deserves their time in the spotlight once again. What do you guys think? Costly, thank you for the 10 months. Not my main, so no. Right. Tell that to Ellie Shaman. Holy shit, Ellie was so broken, by the way. And then they just destroyed it by, I don't know, do you guys remember? It was like 40% nerf or something. Maybe you guys remember the exact number. It was crazy. Ellie was so good, and then they completely destroyed it. Happens every season. Okay, so there we go. Now we have some, as we talked about, Shaman. Elemental got nerfed quite a lot. But it's not like a super horrible spec, to be honest. But the nerf definitely put them down into... I would probably put it somewhere here. Like between C and B. It has really good control. But the damage is not bad. Like, Ellie does pretty decent damage. But no real good group buff. I think we can put you can put Ellie sometime in the middle. It's like mid tier. We can put it in an average spec. And the other spec that is Enhancement Shaman, that one goes above that. Enhancement is just better overall in dungeons. It has the highest single target damage, funnel damage that is, in the game. Something that can utilize really well to speed up the dungeon if you play around it good. Also good AoE. The only weak point that the Enhancement Shaman really has is that it's not so strong defensively. But... And also, it's very weak if you just go in and do pure single target. If you go in and just hit a boss, single target, there's no ads or anything like that, then it does bad damage. But you could argue and say, well, then you didn't really play it the way it's supposed to be played. Then you're not playing around the Enhancement Shaman, which you kind of want to do to make it really, really strong. So I would probably put it in A, but it's like, it's not low A or anything. This class is actually quite high on my A list, I think. It's really solid spec. But is it justified to put it up against Moonkin, Mage, Outlaw? Is it that level of strong? Or is that overhyping it? I think it's close. But is it there yet? The one thing that it's lagging that these specs currently have, except for Rogue, but Outlaw Rogue is just so fucking good, is that they don't bring a raid buff. Mage and Boomkin brings Mark of the Wild and Intellect buff. It buffs the rest of the team. You could say that you bring Wind Fury, but obviously not every spec in the... It depends on what comp you play. Like, let's say you play... If you play it... like... The thing is, you're always going to have the Augmentation Evoker in the group, so you can only have the... Depending on the healer, the tank, you might get some Wind Fury value as well. But it has really good control, short kick, good AoE stops. I cannot put a class that is like as weak as Enhancement Shaman defensively in A+. But Enhancement was like really fucking good in, what was it, Season 1 of Dragonflight? You played Enhancement Shaman in the best comp in Season 1. And it was fine. I would put it... I don't think we can justify A+, but it's like... Actually, maybe... I think it's A. I put it in A. It's A. It's a really good A. We can do it like that. Okay, something like that. Okay. Why Fire Mage is bad like this? Since when is A bad? A is good. A+ is like super good. S is just God class. Yeah, the Mage rankings are fine. Yeah, exactly. You heard it here as well. Mage ranking confirmed by Asuna as well. And he has just been playing on BlizzCon stage. He went up against Echo in the final, in the guild clash. And then they had 25 deaths in front of the Tides and lost. You need to listen to him. He knows. I got it. Oh my god, that was I had so much fun watching that game. It was so crazy. It was such a good game. Oh my god, you guys were just like, you could see you guys were well practiced, you were prepared, you were just way faster, more output, everything. The routes were planned out. The only thing I could actually argue and say is that two things that you guys didn't do that Echo did was the line of sight in the front of the Tides, like the the giant boss that knocks you back. Like the way Echo played it just seemed better and more controlled. And then stacking up the 3 bosses in Everbloom. That was also one where you guys had a little bit fiesta. But besides that, you guys just played way better everywhere else. It was just because of devs you lost. MM is higher than I thought. Yeah, after they buffed the set bonus, it does so much AoE damage. Okay. What do we have left? Paladin. Red Pala. Good survivability. Brings group buff. Does a lot of AoE damage. Only weak point. Single target. Battle res. Red as good single target in the single target raid build, yes. But it's it loses a lot of single target when it goes into the dungeon build. That's why like it's always very weak on bosses. Every time I play with like a red pala. On bosses it's just way worse. Yeah, I mean Zac, Bob, I mean it is really good. Like I think red is good. I would also put red in like A. It's a good class. You're gonna bring it in the like it also gets a legendary. But can you justify red being a meta spec? A plus is like meta. You will see A plus and S classes. Those are the classes you will see at the top. You will see these as the highest ranked classes in the game. Will you see red there? I have my doubts. You will never see red in that position. That's why it's A. But in paid tier list. Now we'll show you. Now always flames red palette. Can be worse. Oh, I mean, I didn't put it. I mean, we can put like. I mean, it's hard to differentiate between these. Honestly, like which one is stronger than the other? Like MM is just so high damage right now. Windwalker. I mean, Windwalker is probably C, yeah. I mean, the thing is, Windwalker is... guys. You have Touch, really good defensively. Dampen, Diffuse, Touch of Karma. Touch of Death is good to kill like high HP mobs as well. Ring of Peace, Leg Sweep, 5% physical damage. A strong cooldown that does a lot of fucking damage on AoE especially. Windwalker has historically had a pretty fucking good profile for dungeons. For raids, a different story. Yeah, we can put it completely out of... we put it in D. But in M+, it's not a bad spec. It's not as good as it used to be. But I would put it... A fair justification for M+. It gets a medium. I put it in B. For dungeons. This is M plus only, guys. This is only M plus. Rumors of Mistweaver being good will ruin Windwalker. Yeah, I mean, of course, if you bring a Mistweaver, I mean, this is the same. I've heard a lot of tanks are overhyping like Vengeance Demon Hunter a lot, right? And I saw people play. People were playing Havoc Demon Hunter, Vengeance DH, Disc Priest, like Frost Mage, Augmentation Evoker. Every time one person died, it was full shambles and a 10-second plus project to rest the guy with engineering rest. Because he died in a corner somewhere, he died in a fire puddle. It's so shambles not having a natural CR in a high-key group comp. It looks so bad when you don't have that. So I'm not sure about the double DH. What about balance? Yeah, that's why I said I put balance really high. And I do think that Blood Decay, I think this is also the words from Dorky, okay? This is taken out of Dorky's mouth. He thinks all tanks are good in M+, except for Guardian Druid. Guardian Druid sucks ass. That's his words. But he thinks that all tanks are actually not bad, and they're in a good spot right now. Warrior's also down bad? What? Really? Bro, I've only seen good things from Warrior. When I played with the now tank on Warrior, he was doing so much damage, and he was surviving just fine. Warrior looked really good, especially when he can get reflect value like in Waker's Manor. Then it's gonna be even stronger. That being said, Blood Decay with Legendary, depending on like how strong that Legendary is gonna be, combined with Blood Decay being as strong as it is right now, I wouldn't be surprised if he's gonna see a Blood Decay like owning in high M+, to be honest. Yo, Torque was out. Assa is going good. We're just going through the DPS specs right now. Yo, Dorky, if you got time, we can do tanks after DPS, and then you can give your thoughts on the tank situation if you want. I can call you in Discord. Okay, now Warrior, guys. Let's do Warrior. I have seen many people put Warrior pretty low. With arms being worse than Fury. Let's see here. B, I mean, what do you get? You get Battle Shout. Depending on the comp you'll be playing, maybe you'll get some value from that. One thing that was really good when I played with Fury Warrior is that they're incredibly tanky. So I don't think like Fury Warrior has any problems survivability-wise. So I think I'd probably put Fury somewhere mid. And either you put arms in C or you put it in B as well, like mid. What do you guys think? Like, where do you think arms deserves to be? Because Warrior is a little bit out of my expertise of gameplay. But I think it's from the performance I've seen playing with it in the PTR dungeons, I was not impressed. But maybe I didn't play with like super strong warriors. That could also be. Every time I played with Revis, he was tanking. Cricket Slap though, did Cricket play? The thing is, and this is the truth, I think if you just bring any good player on a spec, doesn't matter if it's a garbage spec, and then he plays against people that play stronger specs, that are average at the game, he will make it look like the worst spec is better than it is, in comparison. I'm thinking, when I look at these specs, I'm thinking about putting some of the best players in the world at their respective class, and I visualize them playing it. That's the only way I can get a good idea about like the potential strengths of the class. Because you can talk about MM Hunter and stuff like that being weak defensively, but then you see a good MM Hunter bring out his tank pet once in a while to get increased HP. You see him bring out his leech pet once in a while to get leech healing on a rotting damage pull, for example. He calls externals when he needs it, things like that. You know, he outplays his weaknesses by playing better. And you'll see the average M+ puck go in, not play personals, and die. And then you'll think, oh shit, that class dies all the time. Yeah, no shit. But I don't think... What do you guys think? I'm gonna let you guys decide a little bit on this one. It's probably somewhere here, right? B or C? Can we put it C? Okay, now I think we only have one more DPS spec left, and that is Frost and Unholy. I've always loved to play Unholy DK in MDI, since it's always been like historically very strong. But people are saying that in almost all situations, except for potentially Burst, Frost is better than Unholy. That's what I've heard. So Frost damage profile. How are we looking there? Are you playing Breath? Or are you playing a different build? Obliteration, okay. DK. You also get legendary. So think about that. You have an Augmentation Evoker in the group as well. I think I would probably you'd put both specs in A. I think that's justified. Both DK specs are good. But you probably won't see DK being played in like currently in the best comps in the world, right? Also, thinking about that, with Legendary in mind, should we bump Warrior Fury up to A and Arms up to B? Now that I'm thinking about it. it kind of that has to be it. I think we have to do like this. So this was the DPS classes for M+. Currently, that I think this is a tier list for the highest of keys. We're thinking about high keys in mind, guys. All of these specs here are gonna be doing fine in your weekly 20s. And especially if you're good at the game. Okay? This doesn't mean that if you invite like a Devestation Evoker, an Elemental Shaman, Feral Druid, or a Windwalker or something, that they will be completely bottom fragging. If you invite someone that actually knows how to play the game, you will be super fine inviting these specs. So don't feel disencouraged if your goal is not to push the highest of keys. Now, if your goal is to try and do high keys and try and get higher score than you ever done, and that is your purpose and goal, then you should probably look at some of the specs that are higher ranked on the list as a potential main going into the next tier. Okay? These are all subject to change due to nerfs and adjustments, something that will probably happen after you've been going into the raid. Blizzard's licks, oh shit, there's some classes that are overperforming. Let's adjust it a little bit. Let's rein in the tuning a little bit. But then you also need to look at the classes that have historically been good in M+. And those classes, this expansion, are the classes that most likely bring some kind of class buff, like druids, mages, things like that. Demon Hunter is good as well. Like classes that bring a buff to the group that has good toolkit when it comes to survivability, control, and they also synergize well with each other in a 5-man group content. So those classes are most likely going to be good every single season. All right?